Welcome to INSITECT. Today we are talking about the critical security challenges of fire alarm systems in the hospitality sector. All right, so let's unpack this a bit. We're zeroing in on hotels and hospitality where, your standard off-the-shelf fire alarm system just doesn't cut it.
It really doesn't.
For any hotel design team, for any operator, fire safety has moved way beyond just a regulatory checkbox. It's now a top-tier security and liability issue. So what's the core mission of this deep dive?
The mission is really to show you why the stakes are just so much higher here than in, say, a typical office building. If you choose the wrong system, you're not just risking guest safety, which is, of course, number one.
Of course.
You're actively guaranteeing massive operational problems. We're talking relentless false alarms, failing your mandated inspections, and just serious legal exposure.
So it's the liability.
It's absolutely the liability.
Yeah.
Research shows that poor fire protection exposes operators to, well, massive liability if there's a real emergency, especially if you can't prove you did your due diligence in the system's design and maintenance.
And we are seeing a trend here, right?
We are. We're seeing this trend where detection strategies, the way you zone a building, how you integrate systems, these are now critical security priorities. And it all stems from that unique mix under one roof.
The mix being?
You have transient occupants who just checked in 5 minutes ago. You're running 24/7. And you have these incredibly complex mixed-use spaces. That combination is just a recipe for operational risk.
Okay, let's establish that fundamental difference then. Why is a large hotel so much worse than, say, an office tower in terms of fire risk? I mean, an office building, it empties out at 6 p.m. A hotel is always live.
Exactly. That's the key. It's always live, 24/7, and crucially, people are sleeping there. First, you have totally unpredictable guest behavior.
They don't know the layout.
They have no idea. They're unfamiliar with the building, which dramatically slows down an evacuation. And you hit the crucial point. They might be deep sleepers, they might miss the initial signals, or they're just struggling to navigate a hallway they've never seen before to find an exit.
And these are often high-rise buildings, too.
Right, which brings in another layer of complexity. High-rise structures require a very specific system architecture for something called staged evacuation. You can't just tell 1,000 people on 30 floors to run for the exits at once.
It'd be chaos.
Total chaos.
Yeah.
You have to manage the flow of people, and you have to keep access clear for the first responders.
So then there's this source of all the nuisance alarms, which seems to cause, 90% of the operational headaches? Where do those usually come from? Is it always the guest floors?
It's often the mixed-use areas that cause the worst problems. You look at these extended stay properties, for example. They have kitchenettes in the rooms.
Right. A microwave and a stovetop.
And your standard smoke detector really struggles to tell the difference between, burnt popcorn or steam from a kettle and an actual fire. Not in those small, contained spaces.
But the real nightmare is back of house.
That's where the real operational headache is. Commercial kitchens are just constantly generating smoke, steam, particulates. It's just part of the routine. Laundry facilities create massive amounts of humidity and lint, and all those environmental factors bleed out and can affect the detectors in adjacent corridors, which means you need very careful, non-standard equipment.
So if these detectors are constantly going off because of steam or dust, that leads us straight to the most dangerous outcome, the false alarm epidemic. What does that actually do to safety? I mean, beyond just waking up a few guests.
A hotel has zero tolerance for false alarms. It just can't. Every single false activation, it damages the brand's reputation, it costs staff time, it often leads to fines from the fire department.
But the safety risk is the real issue.
It's paramount. Because frequent false activations, they train occupants to ignore the warnings. If the alarm has gone off 3 times this month because of toast, what happens the next time it's a real fire?
People hesitate. They assume it's another false alarm.
They hesitate. And that delay is completely unacceptable. It critically compromises the entire safety objective of the system.
Okay, so we've established the risk. Let's talk brass tacks. What is the fundamental technical decision that separates a system that's just, compliant on paper from one that's genuinely secure and operationally sound? Is it conventional or addressable systems?
This is the foundational choice, and honestly, the research is conclusive. For any hotel of a significant size, addressable systems are, they're effectively mandatory. They provide device-level identification.
Meaning what exactly?
I mean, the system doesn't just say alarm on the 7th floor wing. It tells you specifically, smoke detector in room 712 is in alarm. And that ability for an immediate direct staff response more than justifies the cost.
Wait, but if addressable systems can cost, what, 20 to 40% more upfront, isn't that a really hard sell for owners who are focused on minimizing construction costs?
It can seem like a hard sell, but they can absolutely justify it, and they should. It's not just about liability. There's an immediate operational ROI. Well, think about what we just discussed with nuisance alarms. Addressable systems give you this proactive security benefit. They're constantly monitoring their own devices. They report specific faults or maintenance needs immediately. They even let your staff check the sensitivity readings on each individual detector.
Ah, so you can see a problem coming.
You can service and clean a detector before it gets so contaminated with dust or humidity that it triggers a false alarm. The money you save on operational disruption and false alarm fines, it quickly dwarfs that initial price difference.
So the drawback with the older conventional systems, then beyond just saving a little money up front, is that you just can't pinpoint the fire.
Precisely. Conventional systems only give you zone-level ID. So if a zone covers an entire wing, maybe 20 rooms, your staff has to physically search that entire area to find the device that's in alarm. You're wasting precious minutes.
And in a hotel with guests who don't know the layout.
You cannot afford to have your staff wandering corridors trying to find the source.
Yeah.
It slows down the entire emergency reaction time. It's a massive operational challenge.
That clarity seems indispensable. And if addressable systems are so critical for identification, then I assume the way we define the zones becomes just as important for that staged evacuation you mentioned.
Absolutely. Proper zoning is key. It helps identify locations quickly, and it supports that phased or staged evacuation. We rely on the core rulebook for this, NFPA 72, which is the national code.
And what does that code say?
It limits the size of zones and requires them to logically match up with the building's compartments. So hotels typically zone by floor, or if it's a really large floor, they'll subdivide it by wing. This is crucial because that staged evacuation logic is required in high-rise buildings.
So you notify one floor at a time.
You notify the fire floor first, then the floors immediately above it to manage how smoke travels and get people out before you activate lower levels. And that whole staging sequence, along with the mandated voice evacuation messages, it demands that addressable control architecture. You just can't manage those complex sequences reliably with a simpler conventional system.
Okay, so since that clear identification is so key for staff response, let's look at how a detector actually interacts with its specific environment. Walk us through the technical requirements for different zones. This is really where a hotel install is completely different from a typical office.
Yeah, you have to go area by area. Let's start with the most sensitive one, the guest rooms. Here, the detector you choose has to balance sensitivity with nuisance immunity.
Okay.
So, photoelectric smoke detectors are typically preferred over the older ionization models. Why? Because ionization detectors, they react faster to invisible combustion products like tiny traces of smoke from burning toast in a kitchenette.
Which is what you don't want.
Exactly. Photoelectric detectors, on the other hand, respond better to the larger particles from a smoldering fire, which is the more dangerous scenario. That one slight technical choice significantly reduces nuisance alarms.
And we also have to remember the ADA requirements here, right? Can't just be an audible alarm.
Correct. Notification is not just sound. You have to provide ADA-compliant visual signals, the strobes, for any hearing-impaired guests. And that also ties into smoke compartmentalization.
The fire doors.
Right. The door holder devices, those magnetic locks on fire-rated doors, they have to release automatically when the alarm goes off. That ensures the doors close and stops smoke from spreading down the corridor. It's a critical life safety step.
Okay, let's tackle the biggest challenge next, the commercial kitchen. How on earth do you detect a fire when the normal operation already involves high heat, smoke, and steam?
That is the perennial operational problem. A standard smoke detector is. It's a guaranteed false activation. It's just a matter of when.
So you can't use them.
You can't. The codes and the research permit specialized equipment here. For instance, in commercial kitchens, we often use flame detectors or rate-of-rise heat detectors instead of smoke detectors. They react to rapid temperature spikes or infrared energy, which makes them far less susceptible to routine steam or cooking smoke.
And what about those huge grand spaces, the lobbies, the atriums?
Right, the high-ceiling ballrooms. A standard detector's listing is insufficient there because the ceiling is just too high, smoke would be too diffuse. So these areas require specialized, wider area systems, things like beam detectors, which shoot a beam of light across the space and look for any disruption.
Or air sampling.
Or active air sampling systems that are constantly pulling air through these tiny tubes for a very precise analysis.
Beam detectors, air sampling. We're a long way from a simple plastic box on the ceiling now. So, beyond just detection, a truly secure system has to coordinate with the entire building. What are the mandatory integration points we absolutely cannot overlook?
This integration, it is the core life safety function. A modern hotel fire alarm system is essentially the building's central nervous system in an emergency.
So, what's number one?
Number one has to be elevator recall. Smoke detection in a lobby or an elevator machine room triggers what's called phase, I recall. It automatically brings all the elevators down to a designated floor, usually the ground floor, and opens the doors for first responders. The fire department have to witness the testing of that sequence. It's essential.
And how does it handle smoke spreading through the building?
That's the second critical point. HVAC shutdown. The control panels must send an immediate shutdown signal to the air handling units in the affected areas. This is tied directly into the smoke control sequences that are designed to pressurize the stairways to keep them clear of smoke while exhausting smoke out of the fire floors.
And this all has to tie into physical security, too, access control.
Access control interaction is completely non-negotiable. All the magnetic locks on your fire-rated doors, they need a release input from the alarm panel. Egress has to be unimpeded, and critically, stairway doors have to unlock to permit re-entry.
Why is re-entry so important?
Because you can't risk trapping occupants in a smoke-filled stairwell. If they go down a few floors and hit a wall of smoke, they need to be able to cross back into the building on a clear floor.
Got it. And the last piece is the announcements themselves.
Finally, yes, we have to ensure the voice evacuation systems are actually effective. This isn't just about being loud. The system has to meet what's called a speech transmission index, or STI value.
And what does that mean for a guest who's panicked?
It means the message isn't just a loud noise. It's intelligible. It's clear, which is a huge challenge in big, reverberant spaces, like a lobby or a ballroom. And the bonus is, once you have that sophisticated infrastructure in place, you can use it for mass notification beyond just a fire. Think severe weather alerts, security threats. You can get information out instantly.
That high degree of integration really shows that the fire system is the nucleus of building security. So we've covered the risks, the tech, the integration points. What's the final lesson here for operators and tech teams who are working in this high liability space?
The final lesson is that the regulatory constraints, specifically NFPA 72, which is that national rule book for fire alarm installations, that defines the project from day one. Your local authorities, your fire marshals, they review these complex designs meticulously, and they witness the acceptance testing before you're ever allowed to open.
But compliance is ongoing. It's not a one-and-done install.
Not at all. You need rigorous maintenance baked into your operational budget. We're talking monthly visual inspections, annual sensitivity testing to verify every single detector's operation. And this is where that addressable systems reporting capability becomes your liability defense. You have a verifiable history of due diligence.
So we've covered all the required steps, but is there a danger that by just checking all the compliance boxes, you miss the actual point of safety?
That's the highest hurdle to clear. And what's fascinating here is that system selection is no longer just about checking a regulatory box. It's become an active, proactive security measure against both liability and operational disruption. So you have to constantly be asking the question, if a hotel system achieves full code compliance, but it still suffers from a high frequency of nuisance alarms, from steam, from toast, from dust, is it truly protecting its occupants?
Or is the constant disruption undermining the entire goal?
Exactly. Is it actually undermining the safety goal by training people to distrust the very system designed to save them? That balance between pure code compliance and true operational reliability, that is the real measure of security.
That's a profound thought for any team designing or maintaining these critical systems. Thanks for listening. We will continue to talk about security and technology. See you in the next episode.